What if I told you that the headlines you scroll past every morning, the smiling faces on your TV screen, and the calm voices that greet you with the news are carrying stories far deeper than we ever imagine? Stories of doubt, stories of resilience, stories of unexpected friendship, and stories that remind us, especially at this stage of life, that reinvention doesn't have an expiration date. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on Kelly Ripa and David Muir, two of America's most familiar faces, and uncovering the emotional journey behind the viral headlines that have captured the nation's attention. And here's the twist. This isn't a story about fame. It's a story about becoming. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you may see your own life reflected back at you in ways you never expected. And just when you think you know where the story is going, it takes a turn no one saw coming. Every morning, millions of Americans welcome Kelly Ripa into their homes. She's bright. She's quick-witted. She feels familiar, almost like family. And every evening, David Muir delivers the news with a steady calm, a voice many trust during the most uncertain moments of our time. But here's the surprising truth. Neither of them ever expected to become this version of themselves. Kelly Ripa didn't grow up dreaming of daytime television royalty. David Muir didn't imagine himself as the anchor Americans would turn to during global crises. Their rise wasn't smooth. It wasn't guaranteed. And it certainly wasn't easy. In fact, behind the polished smiles and tailored suits were moments of deep uncertainty, moments where walking away felt easier than pushing forward. And that's where this story truly begins. Because before the fame, before the headlines, there was fear. And the question that haunts us all at some point in life. Am I really enough? But what happened next would quietly shape not only their careers, but the way millions of viewers connect with them today. And this is where the first crack in the public image appears. Kelly Ripa's journey is often described as lucky. But luck doesn't explain decades of showing up, even when the ground beneath you is constantly shifting. When Kelly stepped into the role that would define her career, she did so under intense scrutiny. Every smile was analyzed, every comment dissected, every change magnified. And then came the moments no one likes to talk about, the sudden shifts in co-hosts, the uncertainty behind the scenes, the whispers that maybe, just maybe, it was time for her to move on. But Kelly didn't leave. Instead, she did something radical, especially in a culture obsessed with reinvention. She stayed. She evolved without erasing herself. And for many viewers in their 60s and beyond, that choice resonates deeply. Because how many times in life are we told that relevance means starting over? Kelly quietly proved something else. Relevance can mean growing deeper roots. But behind that strength was exhaustion and a private reckoning that would later echo in ways no one expected. And just when it seemed she had found her footing, another story was unfolding across the studio, under a different spotlight. David Muir's calm presence didn't happen by accident. Long before he became the face of evening news, David learned something few talk about: the emotional cost of being trusted. When you're the person people turn to in moments of fear, you carry their anxiety with you when the cameras shut off. David reported from war zones. He stood in the aftermath of tragedy. He spoke to a nation during moments that felt unbearably heavy. And yet he never made it about himself. But here's the surprising part. That selflessness came at a personal price. Behind the scenes, David has spoken about the discipline, the isolation, and the responsibility that comes with the role, especially when the world feels like it's spinning too fast. For viewers who've spent a lifetime being dependable as parents, professionals, caregivers, This quiet burden feels familiar. You hold it together, so others don't have to. But what happens when the weight gets too heavy? And what happens when two people, walking very different paths, begin reflecting the same unspoken truth? That's when the headlines began to shift. And the internet noticed. It started subtly. A shared laugh, a warm exchange, a moment that felt real. Clips circulated, comments poured in, speculation ignited. Why do Kelly Ripa and David Muir resonate so deeply right now? The answer isn't scandal. It's connection. In an era of noise, people are drawn to authenticity, especially authenticity shaped by time. Kelly and David represent something rare, success that didn't come at the cost of humanity. And for viewers who have lived through decades of cultural change, this feels comforting. But here's the cliffhanger. The viral moments weren't just about chemistry or charm. They were signals. Signals that America is craving something deeper, something slower, something rooted in emotional truth. And just when we think this is the end of the story, it becomes something far more personal. Point 5. Why this story matters, especially now. For those in their 60s and 65s, this story isn't about celebrities. It's about legacy. Kelly Ripa shows us that staying power matters. David Muir reminds us that integrity still has value. Together, their stories quietly challenge the idea that life's biggest moments are behind us. They prove that meaning evolves, purpose deepens, and influence doesn't fade, it transforms. And here's the final, surprising truth. The reason these headlines feel emotional, the reason these moments go viral, is because they mirror something inside all of us. The desire to be seen, the hope to remain relevant, the courage to keep showing up, even when the spotlight feels heavy. So the next time you see Kelly Ripa smile through the screen, or hear David Muir deliver the news with steady calm, remember this. You're not just watching television. You're witnessing the power of perseverance and the quiet beauty of becoming who you were always meant to be. And if this story moved you, stay with us, because the most inspiring chapters are still being written.